5 shot, 2 confirmed dead in Northwest DC. The shooting was reported at O Street and North Capitol Street. This was written by Carissa DiMargo, published August 24th, 2022. This is for NBCWashington.com. 5 men were shot, 2 fatally in Washington, D.C. Wednesday afternoon, police said. And of course, it did not get mainstream media attention. It was not plastered all over the newspapers that in the nation's capital, in the capital of the most prosperous nation in history, the one that is supposed to be the richest, the freest, the most liberalized in the world, we can have a mass shooting happen and nobody cares because Americans worship the Second Amendment. The shooting was reported at the corner of O Street and Northwest Capitol Street, just north of New York Avenue in the Truxton Circle neighborhood. Now, somebody from Washington D.C. might jump in the comments. I'm not from D.C. I'm from Louisiana. Somebody's going to jump in the comments and say, that's a bad neighborhood, or that's the hood, or that's the ghetto, or that's where, if they're racist, that's where the black people live. And they're going to say, that's understandable. Crime happens there. But how sick are you as a person to say in this poor neighborhood, it's acceptable or understandable for there to be a mass shooting? We are all Americans. We are all together. The entire country is a ghetto. The entire country is a bad neighborhood. The entire neighborhood, the entire country is just like any bad neighborhood. We are the worst of us. We don't look at the best of us and say that's who we are as a nation. We look at how we treat and how we allow the lowest of people to live and say that is the example of America, because this happens way too often in many cities, in many towns all across the nation. As I cover on my channel, these mass shootings happen. It does not matter if it's a poor neighborhood, a dangerous neighborhood, a neighborhood where they sell drugs, because we allow this to happen as Americans. DC police officers and DC Fire and EMS were called to the area for the report of several people shot. Units arrived shortly after 12:45 p.m. and found several people shot in the street. This is a tweet from DC Police. MPD is currently responding to a shooting in the unit block of O Street Northwest. Multiple victims have been shot. Please avoid the area. Media staging for the on-scene briefing is in the block. Have you seen this vehicle? MPD is seeking assistance in locating this suspect vehicle in connection to the shooting that just occurred in the unit block of O Street Northwest. Have info, call this number. And this is the picture from the tweet. Police say a dark SUV pulled up and 2 gunmen jumped out and began shooting. 2 men were pronounced dead at the scene and 3 other victims took themselves to a hospital. Now, this is not the first mass shooting that's happened in D.C. this year. Trust me, it's not. I covered another one that happened on my channel. Go look that up and look at that. But I want to say that some people in the comments, and pardon for the people that have been watching my videos, you keep on hearing the same talking points, but I get new viewers all the time, so I have to say this. Somebody in the comments will leave a stupid ass comment and say criminals will get guns anyway. Criminals will do criminal activity and hurt other people and kill other people. Yes, you are absolutely right. Criminals do criminal shit in other countries as well. There are people who want to rob and hurt other people in other countries, but do they have the level of violence that the United States has? Has another country in the world had 500 mass shootings in 2022 alone? No. No other country has that statistic, and we allow it to happen because we allow guns to permeate in society. Every illegal gun was once purchased legally. Guns don't just fall from the clouds or grow from the ground. They once come from legal sources and then flood into criminal activity. So, for anybody who wants to say criminals will do this shit anyway, yes, they probably will, but we can make or mitigate the level of violence in America. We can lessen it to an extreme extent if we abolish the Second Amendment, if we get rid of the guns, period. Where are the good guys with guns? Most people will say responsible gun owners don't commit crimes, responsible gun owners don't do mass shootings, but we have enough bad people doing shit with guns that does not allow this to happen. Guns are not something we need. We need cars, even though people die in car crashes, because they serve utility. Guns serve no utility. You do not use them to protect yourself. We do not use them to fight a tyrannical government. It does not happen. Does not happen. So, Executive Assistant Chief Ashen Benedict described the area as an open air drug market that the police routinely patrol. 5 people were shot today, he said. It's unacceptable. It is unacceptable. And unless you're talking about abolishing the Second Amendment, you can suck my dick. Now, some people will say in the comments that this was a open air drug area. Drug dealing goes on here. The war on drugs has created so much violence, and this is a separate aside opinion, but we need to legalize most drugs, if not all drugs. This is my opinion, and this would definitely mitigate the level of violence that we see. If there was, I don't know, state sponsored I'm against that. Maybe not state sponsored, but legalizing it and allowing the free market to go about its way, right? But allowing drugs to be illegal only promotes criminal activity. We saw this with prohibition with Al Capone and the rise of those criminal organizations, and the same thing has happened with making marijuana illegal, making cocaine illegal, heroin, etc. I always think of that Nas line: "If Coke was cooked without the garbage, we'd all have the top dollars," right? If we could find a way to make drugs accessible, usable, safe to use, and legal, we would not have the cartels in Latin America terrorizing people, and we would have less violence on our streets, period. But first and foremost, we need to get rid of the guns in America. All right, so the shooting was reported at the corner of O Street Northwest and North Capitol Street, just north of New York Avenue. According to police, the first call for help came in from 3 members of the D.C. Fire Department who happened to be on the block inspecting vehicles. They were doing inspections in area buildings, Benedict said. I don't have the exact locations, but as they were coming out of one building, they came onto this block and basically walked into this situation. Wow, so people are busting shots and the police are right nearby, right? The scene is on a busy block near homeless outreach program, so others might eat. Dunbar High School and at least 2 elementary schools. A mass shooting can happen near a homeless shelter, a high school, and 2 elementary schools, and this does not make headline news. This is not something that Americans are concerned about. We're concerned about Donald Trump as a criminal possibly getting arrested. Yes, that's something unprecedented. Yes, that's something that is very unique in American history. But the level of carnage that continues to happen in American streets is more pressing. This is happening to regular American civilians of all stripes, specifically the poor and dispossessed. Campuses were locked down as school staff prepared for the new school year. Police cordoned off the area to investigate. Several streets were closed off around the shooting scene, police said. First Street Northwest between O and P Streets and the 1300 block of North Capitol Street. Metro buses were rerouted. Police obtained video from a Tesla that's cameras. This is a typo. Whose cameras caught the shooting from multiple angles in high definition. They were looking for a black 2020 Hyundai Santa Fe with a possible Virginia temporary tag of that number. So this is another tweet from DC Police Traffic. Shooting investigation, 3rd District Road closures, 1st Northwest between O and P, 1300 block of North Capitol is also closed. Metro buses are also being rerouted until otherwise notified. There was no word on what may have led up to the shooting. The identities of the victim have not been released, but I know who they are, Americans, and we allowed this to happen in America. Several hours later, Wednesday evening, D.C. police responded to a shooting about 4 blocks north of the O Street scene in the unit block of Quincy Place Northeast. A police spokesperson said 2 men were shot and taken to hospitals. A third went to the hospital on his own. The previous night, another deadly shooting occurred about a half block away. In that incident, a 25-year-old man died and a woman was wounded at a Florida Avenue and North Capitol Street. It wasn't known whether these shootings might be related. So far this year, 136 people have died in homicides in the district. In the capital of the United States, 136 people have died, and there have been at least 2 mass shootings that I've covered, this being the second, compared to 131 people at this time last year, according to Metropolitan Police Department data. I was living in Istanbul, Turkey, and I'm filming this video in Mauritius in Africa. I can guarantee you in Istanbul this year, there have probably not been 136 homicides. In a city of 20 million people, there have not been 136 shooting deaths. Somebody wants to pull up statistics and say, yeah, there have been murders over there in Istanbul. Those are knife crimes, probably. It's insane. It's insane. Overall violent crime is up 2%, and assaults with dangerous weapons an assault with a dangerous weapon are down 11%. Violent crime with a gun is up 29% in the past 2 years compared with the previous 2 year period in the police service that includes the shooting scene. According to DC police crime statistics, violent crimes with or without a gun in the same service area is up 7% in the same period. In the nation's capital, which not too long ago was invaded by right wing extremists who tried to take over the government. They can't even keep the regular civilians there who live there safe in the worst part of the city. Some would say. I don't know. I don't know if O Street is the hood or if O Street is suburbs. I don't know and I don't care. I don't care if it's filled with white people, black people, Hispanic people. We are all Americans. And I cover mass shootings, and they happen to all sorts of Americans. If you don't believe me, check out my other content. 10 homicides were recorded in the past 2 years in that neighborhood as of Tuesday. Homicides were recorded in the same block of O Street Northwest October 6th and February 9th. And that's the end of the article. And that's the most Americans will ever hear about this, because there will be no follow up to this story unless the perpetrator is caught. There will be, no mass coverage of this, no mass coverage of the mass shootings in general, because to Americans, this is acceptable. This level of violence that would make us invade another country, which would send UN peacekeepers to another country in America, is acceptable. Abolish the Second Amendment, change your mind, get rid of the guns. The gun culture is ridiculous and imbecile, and let's make America safe for the first time. My name is Simon Hill. Thank you for watching.